Welcome back, my fellow agents. It is I, your ultimate agent of Ultra Action. X7 here, the host of Zenorama, the podcast of heroes and monsters. Today is Thursday, and it is live action review day. That's really a bad name for it. But we're going to review two more episodes of the original Ultraman series. The first one is really good, and the second one is lower on the list, the bottom quarter of the group. But before we get too far into it, please like, share, subscribe, vote in the poll if I do put one up. It'll be an easy vote if I do. Leave a comment, and if you're watching, wherever you're watching or listening, please at least watch a couple of minutes longer than usual. It really helps the algorithm. One of these days, I'll be able to quit saying that, I hope. But as far as we go now, this is it. So, our first episode today of Ultraman is that, which says the mysterious dinosaur base, or the dinosaur base mystery, or something to that effect. And essentially, what happens is there's a beautiful lake here. See, it's just beautiful. But the fish are disappearing. And there's a crazy scientist there named Nakamura. He's got lots of animals in here. I don't know if that's a stuffed deer or not. Nakamura also has a very special animal in the lake, made to rival the Loch Ness monster. Dun dun dun. So of course the fish start disappearing, and there's our crackpot professor, played by Kantamori, and I don't know if he's Professor Nakaido. It's Dr. Nakamura. Anyway, there's a mystery here. So you can see he's crackpot because he's got wild hair and his clothes are all messy. He's wearing his white lab coat, so he's a doctor of science, or an expert in the field of science. So the science patrol is set out to see what's going on in the lake. They bring the VTOL, and of course we launch. And we probably won't be doing many more of these shots. Everyone knows by now, if you haven't watched it, if you don't know what the Science Patrol headquarters looks like, or the VTOL, well, go watch some more. So there's the lake, and they launch their little submarine, and that is, does that have a mecha in it? A mecha name? It does not. It's got S21 on it, which is kind of cool. I mean, this is what we saw in the very first episode, Hayata pestering Bemlar with. And there's like little Aquaman sound rings there, searching for it. There's Arashi looking in the sub, and it has a nice bright light, and they find nothing. So those two get to have a little special vacation because they've earned it. However, in the Mad Doctor's laboratory, if you will, there's all these paintings of alleged dinosaurs. That's a fish. That might be the ichthyosaur. The dub is unintentionally funny if you're more a dinosaur fan. There's the Diplodocus that lives in Loch Ness, allegedly. Back when they thought it had a nice long... We don't even know what this is. And these are some gruesome animals. Gruesome drawings on the walls. Triceratops, at least we got one we can identify. Triceratops horridus. And that looks like Anguillus to me, but I don't think that's who it's supposed to be. So go figure. He doesn't have his little nose snout at this point. So predating his appearance in Mechagodzilla in 1974's Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. And there's two reporters talking to him, so you can see, apparently, I'm assuming he painted all of these himself. It's very interesting. Not realistic at all, but paleo art vintage paleo art's very cool. And this is almost 60 years old, so it should count. I just love this shot. That's why it's in there. It's just the lighting, the blue sky, the blue lights. I just thought it was really cool. Let's embiggen it. Dun, dun, dun. And there's Ito. Later on, he's running around with a lady reporter, and he gets this off his sock. Like it's this little fit marker. But that's apparently the only one he has, because it's the only one we see. And he gets caught. Crazy doctor has a gun. He's not afraid to use it. Look, that's That's a relatively good painting of a pteranodon. I had a toy that looked a lot like this that was at some point in time. Actually, I had two sets of them. They were like $2 back in the day. Probably worth millions now. But I digress. Did you grab yourself a good helping of hummus of perfection and your favorite delivery method? I hope so. Not sushi, apparently, for this episode. And here is the monster Jiras, or Kira, as he's known in the American dub. I will probably call him Kira because that's just the one I've used my whole life. It looks familiar to me. I can't quite place it yet. These are two idiots who are poisoning the fish so they can catch them. Wouldn't poisoned fish not be good to eat? It doesn't seem very sportsmanlike. It's not very sportsmanlike. Oh, I'd have to try to do an Andre the Giant from The Princess Bride a little better, Fezzik. It's not my fault I'm the biggest and the strongest. But, there he is, rising out there. Here's another lovely matte shot. Can't even tell where the real guy is there. I mean, it's right about here, but little flaw in the picture. But look, that monster looks vaguely even more familiar to me now. And this was an overhead shot. It didn't come out as well as I'd hoped, but it's from the VTOL as Captain Mura and Fuji fly over. Another matte shot. I can't quite see his head now, but that body looks familiar, doesn't it? It's this frill that's weird. Our crazy scientist, and it's obviously he's supposed to look like he's been made up right around here. Go figure. And he is. He turns into a different person because he pulls off his wig and his mask, and he's some other guy that was thought to be killed. There we go. We've almost got a full shot of this. Those eyes, that face, that frill? No, not quite. The spider shot is very effective. At least it is at annoying Kira, but they're rescuing Ito or Arashi and the lady scientist. One of the two. Maybe Ito went up there with him. Here, using the beta capsule, Hayata becomes Ultraman. It's one of the few times they actually show the concentric or the rings that turn him into Ultraman. They've shown him turning back, and they do it maybe 2 or 3 times. It's very sparingly used because you don't really need to see it. It's cool, but you don't need to. And now we see that this is the Godzilla 64 suit with a frill and a paint job on it. So a lot of fans, especially Godzilla fans, get all disgruntled about them using this because, oh no, Ultraman is going to fight Godzilla. No way could Ultraman beat Godzilla. It's fiction, you morons. Get over it. It's still one of the better episodes. So Godzilla shows off a little. Kira shows off a little bit and pulls a rock up and blasts it with his ray beam, his breath beam. I mean, are you sure? Are you even trying now? Come on, guys. I mean, I'm sure they used the suit because it was handy and they didn't have to rebuild it, just paint it and, attach a frill to it. And when I first heard about this episode being described as in Monsters of the Movies, Marvel's attempt at famous monsters, I'm going to say number 5, the Godzilla episode, issue 5. It's not 6, that had the mummy on the cover. But the writer, Don Glut, said he had a ceratopsian frill. I figured he had one that went over his head, like up here, with the Triceratops nose and horns, and then came up here. But it's just attached to his neck. How does he swim with that thing on? Ultraman does the same trick with his spacium beam, but those are the only effects we see here. Kira uses his breath weapon again a couple more times, but Ultraman doesn't use anything else. So they have a fight. And that's a lovely shot there. I like it quite a bit. It's the king of the monsters, but he's not in this movie or in this show. Ultraman tears off the frill, and this is bloody. Look at that. There's blood all over that. That would be a shock to the system. They have more fight. This fight goes on for a while. Could have been broken up a little more with the people watching it. And Agent K is making her appearance known because she just woke up from a nap. Tussle. Ultraman, you can actually see the I didn't notice that before. Even if you shrink it, you can. Once you have seen it, you can't unsee it. Ultraman kills Kira with the an Ultra Slash or an Ultra Knife. It's just this flash. I tried to get it, missed it. More blood. He lays the as he's sorry or he appreciates the nobility of his opponent. He lays the frill over him and flies off. And then, whoa! I don't know what has happened there. So that's the end of the episode. The professor dies crawling to his creation because he got stepped on, and it ends in fire. So it's a triumphant episode, but it's not particularly happy. It doesn't end well for the monster, who was just minding his own business. He didn't ask to be created, and the professor, playing God with life. The end. So let's take a little break here for a musical interlude. Oops. That is the Surf Coasters once again, playing the Ultra Q theme, but I can use a couple snippets. All right. So our next episode is not one of my favorites. This will go quick because I just don't care. The Mysterious Dinosaur Base first aired September 18th, 1966. And that was Haruo Nakajima, the original Godzilla actor, in the Kira Jiras suit. And that's about it. There were bunches of guest stars, but we have a lot more in here because this is the Rogue and the Magic Stone from Space, or what I'm looking at here on the ultrafandom.com site. They're calling it the Rascal from Outer Space. I've seen a bunch of different titles, so it's the Rascal and the Stone from Outer Space seems to be because of what happens. Not my favorite episode. So let's get through this and wrap things up. All right. These kids are playing Buck Buck. Hoshino and his friends are playing Buck Buck. Now, if you don't know what Buck Buck was in the 40s, when they didn't have television and couldn't do anything else, these bottom row of kids, say 6 kids, would line up, and then a bunch of kids, another team of kids would come and jump on top of them, and they'd say, well, we held 400 a year, guys. How many can you hold? We usually hold 500 or 600. That's Buck Buck. And the girl, so Hoshino or somebody sees this shining meteorite fall down. The girls are watching the boys be morons and eating popcorn because you don't see girls playing Buck Buck. They were smarter than that. It's not that they couldn't. They were just smart enough to say, all right, you two can give you 300 kids can give yourselves back problems for the rest of your lives. So the stone lands. It's a small meteorite. The boys find it, and they find out that it's a wishing. It turns your fondest wishes into reality, at least for a time. Not for all time, because they do fade away. There's the stone and Hoshino, and he's like, okay, we can't keep making cakes that disappear or pianos. I'm taking it to the Science Patrol. Yeah, there it is. I just said I wasn't going to do it. I did it. And they're examining it, and they go on and blah, blah, blah. And there's the guy in there with the limp who figures out how to steal it. He gives it orders to turn into a rocket, and it flies out to him. There's a nice little shot of the gun using a different ray because they're trying to hit his car. They do. It turns around. This is a miniature, right? This whole thing is a miniature because it crashes in there. Lovely, well-edited shot and turns right in there. This episode was broadcast a week later, of course, September 25th, 1966, directed by Kazuo Mitsuda. Once again, it's just... So they're all looking solemn and, we let him get away. And there's I don't even know who the woman is. Lovely shot of the sky of the seaside town where the rogue is in. And yes, he's got a limp, he's got a cane, so maybe he's mad at the world. He's not particularly evil, he's just likes to cause trouble. So he has the stone finally turn into a monster, Gongo. Yeah, it's not named in the US dub because, It's a silly looking monster. I mean, but it's not supposed to be real. It's his figment of his. It's a conjuration of his imagination. So that's why it looks so silly. And he loves it. He's happy, happy, happy. He needs some shock treatment, and he'll be feeling fine. There's a nice close up of Gongo's face, which is it's a good monster face. So he uses the monster to scare people, to get out of paying his bills. Finally, he wishes that Gongo would turn giant. Oops. Crushes the building he's in, knocking the rogue, or the rascal, completely out. So there's no control over Gongo, who is very childlike. I mean, he's just out destroying things. I just like this setup shot here. There's the pool, and the science patrol arrives because there's a giant monster rampaging, and they find him wounded. He's obviously got a head wound. He's out cold. So the monster has no direction to do anything. It just meanders about. The military is called in with their, these are almost the next. They were the maser tanks later on, but they're not quite there yet. They blast off one of his little ears, which annoys him greatly, and he knocks the VTOL out of the sky. Hot is underwater. Using the beta capsule underwater, he turns into Ultraman, and the fight begins. Gongo doesn't know how to fight. He just copies Ultraman. Ultra Judo Chop. And have you ever seen a monster get tickled before? Because there's no stopping this thing. It just exists. There's no weakness because he didn't, he would, if he were awake, the rogue would be able to tell him to disappear. So they don't know what to do here. Finally, the rogue wakes up, realizes what he's done, wishes the monster was gone. Poof, that's it. A very silly story. I mean, obviously, they've done the wish story. Every Japanese superhero does this. The villain is usually responsible. There's one I just watched in Zoo Ranger that had the very same thing, and it took 2 episodes to get rid of it. But there's the stone once again, and Hayata is saying, well, this doesn't belong on Earth. It doesn't belong here, and he's going to give it to Ultraman, who flies into space. Right as he leaves, Fuji decides he wants something, but they laugh at him. I laugh at her because he takes it and leaves, and the door shuts in her face because she couldn't open the door again, I guess. There he is flying into outer space, and I don't know. If I were him, I would have taken it to the planet Ultra because that planet gets attacked a lot, and they could have used like something that, you wish for something that would beat Belial, and then you get something worse, right? That then you have to destroy. So chances are he probably just destroyed it. We'll see a very similar episode about about episode 17, more or less, except that they don't have any control over the stone. That's quite a good episode, but it's bizarre and it's surreal. This one is just, it's full of kids at the beginning, which aren't bad. They're just they act like kids. They don't pick on each other, but they do want to play with the stone and make their dreams come true. So Ultraman gets rid of it. The end. Now our next episode, we have a good episode and possibly the worst one. Is it the worst one? Yes. So a good one and the worst one. What's considered by many just the most boring Ultraman episode ever. To be forewarned is to have 4 arms, but 4 arms do not great feats make. Just ask Hank McCoy, who I just quoted. So until our next assignment, agents, this is X7 reminding you not to pick up strange stones from outer space. And I'm signing off. We'll let the Surf Coasters play us out just a little bit.